Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Scott Henderson, and my co-host is Dr. J. We are experienced investors with a huge advantage as we have been able to learn from our family that has well over 100 years of experience in real estate and other alternative investments. Here on Master Your Millions, we seek to share that experience that we've learned and expand our knowledge as we talk to the top leaders in alternative areas of investing. Today, we are super excited for our guest, Jason. Who do we have coming on?
Scott, I'm equally excited about having our guest. His name is Harrison Klein. I'm going to introduce him for a minute. Harrison is basically a very well-connected individual. He knows such luminaries as John D. Martini, Forbes Riley, Tony Robbins, and I believe he has actually shared the speaking stage with the Dalai Lama. To leaders, he's a time expander, showing them how to recover days and weeks for fulfilling and transformational adventures. To heart-based entrepreneurs, he's a multiplier, increasing business effectiveness exponentially in a way that rings true to their soul's greater purpose. To the rest of the world, he's a thunderclap of power, an innovative game changer with a massive 360-degree vision, providing his global audience with the kind of high energy, high purpose, high impact results they've been seeking. Known as the leading transformational luminary, Harrison nimbly guides, mentors, and instructs thousands of people from every corner of the world on how to play bigger and to enjoy their lives on a daily basis. Harrison, thank you so much for being a guest on our show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to get connected to people who understand and want to go through this process as well. So my great honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. On our podcast, and we've said it many times, Master Your Millions is all about accumulating, enjoying, and passing on millions. And as you and I had a pre-interview, if you will, it became very abundantly clear to me that you would fit really good in this middle section about enjoying more about where you are now. Sometimes as entrepreneurs or high-paid W-2 people, we get caught up in our job so much and we don't have the ability to enjoy it very much. And I'm thinking that's where you will best be fit and where our audience will best be benefited from. So I understand you've written a few books. I'm trying to remember there's 4 of them, right?
7.
You have 7 books, right? Okay. And let me see. The one I was thinking about, though, there's Messages from the Light. So tell us a little bit how you got to where you're at. You're a mentor, you're a coach, you're a mover and a shaker. What are some key events in your life that got you to where you're at?
Historically, basically, if you want to go back to the process that opened me up into an awakened state, I have to say I didn't have much to do with that myself. It was a moment of grace that opened me up. But I had been in an autistic state for 23 years. I was quite shut down, no awareness, quite angry, big resistance within me about everything. Any change would be met with an internal scream of, no, I don't want this. And I hardly had a conversation with anybody till I was almost 30 years old. And the only conversations I really did experience were things like, how much is this and what do I have to do here? And I wasn't popular in school. I didn't have very much, connection, didn't really have any support system of any sort. And so I was shut down. I was quite broken as a human being and highly wounded, very sensitive to the wrong things. But, my internal state always told me there's more to life than this experience, and that this is not the way it's supposed to be. I wasn't born for this kind of thing. I was in a difficult situation, but a lot of it was not of my making. So as I pursued the process of just internal sensitivity, Jung said that he who focuses outside um, dreams, he who focuses inside awakens. And I became much more awake in the fact that I was exploring my own sensitivities to everything, my relationship to everything, my relationship to this computer, to you, to the room I'm in, to the car I drive, to the money I make, to the circumstances I experience. So as I became more and more sensitive to my relationship to those things, my consciousness began to awaken. I kind of got stimulated by a lot of different things, but it wasn't anything that I did. I just, at that point, I didn't believe in God. I didn't have any, I've never had an experience. I had never had an experience of, even a satisfying, minimal relationship. So I felt all alone. I felt isolated and unclear. And
So are you saying that because of the autism, you felt really trapped in where you were?
very trapped. And
Okay. And so what was it that caused you to escape that? I mean, this is a very rare event that someone is able to break through. I'm not even sure what the right term would be, break through, break out of an autistic situation. What helped you get over that?
um, I will tell you that I suffered a great deal. And when I was going through this exploration of self in a deep way, this is not me, that's not me, that's not me. This one wears a mask, this doesn't do this, this is difficult situation, that I don't want to have anything to do with. As I was going through those sifting and sorting judgments, basically, what I didn't realize was I was sifting and sorting what was about me, and that what the world gives you is reflected from what you are. In this world, we get what we are, not what we want, basic principle. So when we understand this kind of a situation and you start to explore yourself in depth, what happens is you open up this connection to awakening. You get all this, contemplation about what works, what doesn't work, what's right, what's wrong, who am I? What do I really want? Where am I going? What's this kind of a thing? And as those kinds of things begin to unfold for you, basically, you don't know it because it's not conscious, but you are moving energy in a way that opens you up to a broader response from the universe, if you will. And so there is a metaphysical base to everything. Nothing happens, on its own. Everything is at least twice created, first in the mind by a picture, and then in the outpouring of that in a physical reality. So, so I was just exploring these pictures and ideas in my mind in a way that I didn't have any conscious awareness of it. But at the moment before I had my awakened experience, and my awakened experience was really dramatic, not something that the average person could probably relate to, but moment before I had my awakened experience, my thought was, what if all this pain that I've suffered for all this time really has something to do with me being love, me becoming love? And then all of a sudden, I had this massive download of energy. I had this massive experience. What had happened in the autistic state was that, I really had my senses were all disrupted. I could only hear about every third word like a bad cell phone. And I was trying to piece together what people were saying. So I was stimulated in ways in which I couldn't follow a sentence or I couldn't follow a stream of thought. What happened in the autistic state was that there was a film over my eyes and I couldn't see things in the same vividness that other people see things. People who are in autism or in severe autism can't tell you these things because they don't know. They don't know any different. But when you break out of it, you realize you see the vividness of what was there from what wasn't there before. Um, once I had my awakening, my body became so sensitive to things that I could actually feel the origin of a thought in the base of my spine, travel up my spinal cord, around my nervous system, into my amygdala, through across my corpus callosum, into my frontal lobe, and then explode as an image or a word sentence in front of me. And so thoughts became something that I was very observant of, and that observation tweaked my ability to start growing, all the things that I want, because now I'm fully aware of what I'm thinking at any given point, so I can accept or reject or amend something. So
So
that
you've then, help me if I understand you right, then you have been able to use that in helping other people to realize that their thoughts are powerful, and helping them rearrange sort of their consciousness, or rearrange how they approach life so that they can enjoy more time. Is that a correct statement, or how would you say that?
Well, I'm a guide to mystical experience, to opening people up, and to also to massive wealth. So as you become much more aware of who you are, your preferences become much more energized. So most of the time, the great majority of people, their preferences are about avoiding things. And the people who are most successful with money and most successful with relationships and things like that, they are in a state of joy. They're in a state of happiness. So, or at least steady well-being. If it's not fully joy, and it's not, they're at least in a state of steady well-being. And what happens when you get downloads of energy, big downloads of energy, which means that you feel much more invigorated, much more alive, much more significant in your power, in your presence, in your abilities, you come into a space that gets to control that. And so when we start to have these perceptions of the fact that the world is simply a reflection of what goes on inside of us, now we can adjust our world in the way we want it. The first principle is identity. We have to figure out who we are. And that is a basic question. And who am I and what am I feeling right now? The two most important questions in life. Most people don't tackle that adequately. That's what I spent 23 years trying to figure out. The second thing is you have to understand what self-image is. Self-image is how you feel about yourself. And if you don't have a good feeling about yourself, you need to adjust that, because that is what controls your behavior. And if you can control your behavior, now you have the ability to deal with whatever challenges are in front of you. You get to meet your challenges head on, and you become adequate to the challenges of life. Third thing that you need to do is you have to have a strong belief system. So you got to figure out what you truly believe. And most people have very limited beliefs based on their conditioning and programming from the time they have been a child into the time of their adulthood. I had a woman that she was 64 years old, and I was coaching with her. And she had had a horrible life all of her life. She suffered immeasurably. She never had a relationship. She never had made very much money. She never, could really adequately focus on very much. But as we dug into her subconscious and we began to unearth what was really going on inside of her, what we discovered was that at the age of 4, her mother had put her dog down, had killed her dog, and she never forgave her mother for that. And she spent the next 60 years of her life dealing with that anger, with that fear, with that loss, and with that grief. So she spent 60 years of her life dealing with the decision and the experience and the emotionality of a 4-year-old. This is something that's not that atypical. And once we began to restructure that for her and began to see how that works, basically she started to dress better. She started to talk more articulately. She began to have much more confidence in the way she did. She got a relationship. She started to get money for different things that she was interested in, and her whole life turned around. And today
So are you saying then, with this woman, would be your process, or your philosophy wouldn't be any different for her than say I'm a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, making $5 million a year or something, and I'm not feeling like I'm really enjoying it, that I feel like I'm trapped. You'd still do the same thing. It'd be the same process.
Yeah, the process is, what Socrates called heuristic. And what a eurism is basically is we question until we move the client into their discovery. I can tell them what's wrong and what they're not getting, but if I question them, they discover the answers, and in discovering the answers, they grow because it's theirs at that particular point. It's not me telling them something which they can accept or reject as they please. They discover the answer, which then becomes them. So, I sat around a round table with 12 CEOs making over, 25 to $50 million a year. And as we began to share stories, we went around this circle, and everybody's traded their stories. 8 of the 12 had very difficult experiences. They were estranged from their wives. This is their kids. It's their third marriage. They sacrificed all of their lives, and they feel empty. Having built a $50 million company, and they're still empty. They don't have any satisfaction or fulfillment. The same thing applies to them. Now, what happens when you reach the top of anything is that, number one, you feel a lot lonelier. So, you don't have, we're trained not to show our weakness. We're trained at the very highest levels to display strength as the primary projection that we make, because that's how we get our authority. That's how we make the decisions. So people can't be vulnerable at that. So they suppress that. They suppress that into their subconscious. And if they have difficulty in their relationships with their wives or their kids or whatever the case, it amplifies the pain of different sorts. And so when we begin to explore that situation, it opens up to what is the true nature of all this. Now, what we need to understand, especially in financial and successful people, is that there are a lot of reasons for success. One is avoidance of fear or avoidance of unsuccessful or non-successful experiences, and another might be the intensity to command or control because they need to, because they don't have this anchoring in that steady state of well-being. So their emotions become volatile, but they can't express their vulnerability easily. So that's a thing. Now we come to this earth and we incarnate into a body for 3 reasons. So number one, and this is the same for everybody. There's nobody who doesn't have these 3 reasons. The first is joy. So we come here to enjoy we're here to enjoy the trip. We came into a body so that we could enjoy this thing. The second is expansion, and that is how we grow. So we are hardwired to joy and expand, but our programming takes us off of that. And the third is to serve. So those 3 things are integral to each human being. And the thing is, we get knocked off of our axis for doing those kinds of things. And we think that joy is, we can't have joy until we've done our hard work. We can't do service unless we are having a vision that controls a whole lot of people. We think that we can't expand without, the support of somebody who's really close to us and all that kind of stuff. And the truth is, we can do all those things. We have all that within us. And so as we begin to expand our consciousness around a whole lot of things, basically, we expand our energy. We not only expand our energy, but we expand our perception. And then when we expand our perception, there comes a point in which we break through. And that breakthrough is beyond the body. That is breakthrough beyond the identity. And when we break through beyond the identity, now we are fully ourselves. So we don't have.
Are you saying then that when we expand and our realm, if you will, or our consciousness, that we have the ability then to enjoy more and to serve more?
Yes, you are here to we are hardwired to enjoy more, and we are hardwired to serve more. That is indigenous into who all of us are.
So is our relationship, our programming, you keep talking about our programming, what we heard as children, what we hear in society, what people tell us, oh, this is what's polite, this is what's right, what's wrong, is that sometimes those can be limiting. How do we then ask ourselves those questions? It's simply reading the right books? Is it spending the time alone? What's one of those first steps to having that expansion, that growth?
Yeah. So, basically, we have to, first of all, we have to want to expand. We have to want to experience joy. Many of us forget about the fact that, we believe that, you can't have joy until you have this, and that joy is sort of something that is a reward for the things you do. It's not a reward, it is who you are. So the first thing is you have to understand what it's all about. And joy is not about preferences, it's about a steady state of well being. It's not
Okay,
something
so
that happens.
our podcast, like I said earlier, is all about accumulating, enjoying, and passing on your millions. So what you're saying though, that enjoying that doesn't need to be in the middle. It needs to be the whole thing. There needs to be joy while you're accumulating your money, not waiting until you have accumulated money to have joy. That's something should be steady state, was what you said,
Yeah, it's
right? And that's where
foundational.
we need to be. I mean, because there are a lot of people, and we have talked to some people that have changed that, had a really great job and they're making lots of money and flying all over the place in the private corporate jet and doing different things. And they realize that really my joy is at home with my wife and my kids. And so they changed their job and did something else so they could have that joy now versus saying, I'm going to store up all this money and then have joy. And
Right.
you're a high proponent of that very thing. If you will, I would like to kind of change gears a little bit. I know you're a member of what's called the Wealthy Mofos. Uh,
Yes.
Tell us a little bit. That started on Clubhouse, or where did that start?
Well, that's where I met my partner Kamal on Clubhouse, yes. And we were actually having a money conversation on Clubhouse, and Kamal liked what I had to say, and he reached out to me to, have discussion, and we eventually, got deeper and deeper into connecting with each other, and we began to understand, the elements that create wealth in a way that also creates consciousness. So, those elements like clarity, like vision, like, competence, like excellence, commitment to excellence, like courage, like those kinds of things. And we began to talk about that in quite extensive exploration. Um, the bottom line is that as you grow in your wealth, basically, if you don't keep up with the joy within you of that, it becomes an emptiness game. It becomes, I'm empty, and I have to do something else. So but joy is really indigenous, and when you start to adapt the element of knowing that you're already joyful and just recognizing it, you see the synchronicities of things that go on. Once you begin to adapt those elements, those uh, uh, um, perspectives, from a 60,000-foot perspective as opposed from an event perspective. There's a difference between experiencing an event, which can make you irritable or angry or whatever, and a perspective, because which is the bigger picture, means that this event is only one part of something that's bigger and greater for me, and the obstacle really is the way, when you're working your way through something, and getting something. The joy is indigenous to who we are. I can't emphasize that enough. And the thing that so many people don't do is that they don't acknowledge it. They want to use it as a reward. It's not a reward. It is who you are. And if you allow yourself to be who you are, if you remove the obstacle to being who you are, then it comes to the surface, and it becomes your state of being, your steady state of being. And that just means that you allow yourself to be silly. You allow yourself to be funny. You allow yourself to be happy. You allow yourself to have, good relationships. You allow yourself, the circumstances out there don't control you. You control the circumstances by your attitude, by your perspective, by your experience. And, the biggest mistakes that people make is they don't have the proper strategy. They don't have the proper philosophy. To master anything, you have to have three things. You have to have the mastery of the philosophy, you have to have the mastery of the experience, and you have to have the mastery of the application. So, in the process of that, your financial skills become greater. Your relationship skills are not transactional, they become relational. And there's a very big difference between transactional relations and relational relations. You know, you begin to understand the process of development, your own development, other people's development. You now have a perspective on what truth is. So rather than making judgment, you're actually observing, not judging. You become aware of what it takes for product development. You become aware of what it takes for sales strategy. You become aware of what it takes for team management skills. And all of that becomes something that's joyful for you because you are acknowledging your experience in that as being competent. You're acknowledging your experience in that as having clarity. You're acknowledging the understanding that you have, you know, vision, and you have a big vision. All people are born with a big vision. My big why is basically to really fulfill the promise that was put into me by coming to this earth in this body. So, you know, we come into this understanding of wealth. We come into this standing of this understanding of growth. And what happens is as you become more of yourself, you become unstoppable. Unstoppable. You know, that means no one can stand in your way because you're actually in control of what you're experiencing by the thoughts and images of your mind. If we understand the quantum field, that's the thing from which everything emerges. Scientifically, it's well proven, well fact. Everything emerges from the quantum field. So when you begin to understand how that emerges, that's the first way to making your way in the world in a positive control. The first thing that comes up when you understand how things emerge is time. Einstein said that time was a persistent illusion, right? And what he meant by that is that it's very malleable. It's not a fixed thing. You know, when you're excited and joyful, time moves very quickly. When you're depressed and sorrowful, it moves very slowly. It's very malleable. And so, you know, once you begin to master the understanding of time management type skills and all that kind of stuff, you'll find that the most successful people break their time down into small integers. The least successful people, like a homeless guy, can't even fill up 15, 20 minutes, doesn't know what to do, has no purpose, no direction. So, you know, once you start to master the element of time, that's the bridge to your higher consciousness. That's the bridge to your connection to God. After you
And
do
that is
that,
one where the time is one area where a lot of people let that get out of whack. They're not very deliberate in controlling that aspect of their life.
right.
Um, whether that's, you know, managing their property, managing their money, managing whatever it is. They let other things, it's like outside in versus an inside out. And that's what you're saying, that you must be conscious and deliberate about that. I want to know where you believe you're going to be, let's say in 5 years. I mean, what's your goal? Where are you going? What is it that you want to do?
I'm guided, so I don't really have the kind of goals that other people have. So I'm guided to just create service, continual service. So where that takes me, we'll see. I'm a millionaire now. I'm almost a quintimillionaire, and I've been working on growing over this 40 some years at this particular point. And this happened to me. My original mystical experience happened to me when I was 28. So it's almost 40 years ago. And, all that happens is that I just, I have an understanding of things, and people find that, it's a personal development, not only for me, but for other people. So, I am who I am. I express my truth, and then, that grows me, and it creates relationships, and people give me money and things. So Wealthy
Uh,
Mofos is about that. Wealthy Mofos is about the growth of understanding your dynamics, your personal vision, your innovation, your courage, your you know unstoppability, and your confidence. So what's a wealthy person feel like? A wealthy person feels like they have a lot of choices, right? They have a purpose and a a feeling of appreciation and warmth toward what life has given them, at least a real wealthy purpose and person who isn't in the area of, driven by a need or transaction, as opposed to driven by love. Love is the center of all these things. We feel empty when we don't love the things that we are. Or we don't love the things that we do. We feel empty when we are doing things just for money. That doesn't work, basically. And you can accumulate a lot, but you can't enjoy it. So you don't have that fulfillment. Anytime you have a lack of money, it means you're not giving love to something. So you are not giving love to something. So love is central to the way we experience our real selves. It's not central to the way people do business necessarily, but it is in my world. So we do that as the center of everything. Once we tap into that experience, we open ourselves up in ways that we never could have imagined. We start to see all these synchronicities. Synchronicities is tracking the way you think to the way you experience. So everybody knows the thing of where you think about somebody and 5 minutes later or 2 minutes later they call you, or you think about a television program that was on 3 years ago and suddenly it's on TV the next day, or those are kind of things called synchronicities. And what happens is those are things that have no resistance within you. When you're fighting something, when you're fighting to get ahead, when you're fighting to control circumstances or other people, you are driven by the wrong things. If you move your consciousness into a place of who am I really in this situation? How can I do the right thing? You start to have this development of, a growth in a way that is both one-on-one and collective simultaneously. So it's a very dynamic, expansion that happens in the most natural of ways. And you don't
Okay, I
have
love that. I really appreciate it. We need to be wrapping up here. Could you, in say the 5 words, kind of summarize? I mean, I've liked several of your things where you said that we're here to enjoy, we're here to expand, we're here to serve. We need to have a better idea of who we are, and everything we need to do, it needs to be rooted in love. Is there some sort of summary statement you'd make in 30 seconds or less that we have in time remaining? I know you have so much more, and everyone, we're going to put a way to in the show notes for you to be able to contact Harrison. Some of his books are on Amazon, I understood, that you could find out more about and learn this philosophy. Again, it's all about, and I agree with it, we need to be at the heart of everything. There needs to be joy in our whole path, from beginning to end. It's not something that, okay, we're going to this delayed gratification thing doesn't always necessarily work. We don't wait, oh yeah, I'll be happy when this happens, be happy when the house is paid for, I'll be happy when I have 50,000 cash in my bank account, or whatever it is. We need to have joy along the way. So real quick, 30 seconds are left, Harrison. Give us a summary.
focus. Simple as that. Focus your energy, focus your intensity, focus your intentions. So life follows our intentions, very simply, exactly to the way we intend things. No more, no less. Exactly. So intend and focus. That's the
I
basic
like it.
of it all.
That's very good. Thank you very much, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to talk more.
Can I give you guys a gift? Can I give your listeners a gift? Would that be?
Oh,
Please.
sure.
Sure. So, number one, my Wealthy Mofos is just wealthymofos.com. You want to learn about that. If you guys want to become affiliates and spreading the word of that, just go to wealthymofos.com/affiliates. We have a webinar coming up on June the 8th. And that webinar, basically, we want to get about 1,000 people on the line, which is what we're going to do, basically. And every affiliate gets 100% of the ticket prices. We have 2 different ticket prices. One is $97 and one is $297. And for every person you bring to the fore that buys a ticket, you get 100% of that. We make our money on the back end. We're happy to give the front end to the people who help us. And Wealthy Mofos teaches you basically the process of this success series of things, and it's based in the mystical understanding of, growth, based in the mystical understanding of well-being. And the term wealth comes from the old English having to do with well-being, and it also comes from the old English of having to do with being whole, 100% whole. So when you become wealthy, if you do it the right way, you're whole, you're fulfilled, you have joy, you have love, you have energy, you have life, you're alive, you feel
Well,
alive.
thank you so much for that gift, and we'll put that in the show notes. We appreciate that. We'll everybody that's listening, you're offered to that. So great. We thank you, Scott.
Yep. And remember, guys, if you'd like to connect with Jason or I, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or shoot us an email. Everything will be down below, including Harrison's gift. And remember, guys, mastering your millions all starts with your mind and your team. Make sure they are the best. Catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.